Hello everyone, this is Ether Dragon, and welcome back to another episode of Fire Emblem Heroes. So, like I said in the previous AR offense episode, we goofed really hard on offense, but it didn't matter. And of course, we're never going to be in top 10k because there's literally more than... I know there's probably at least like 13, 14, maybe even 15,000 people in Vault of Heaven, so that if you're not in Vault of Heaven, there's literally no way to make top 10k even. So, butts on defense, we just got successes every match. Half expected, half kind of oof, especially towards the end of the season. But, all I gotta say is the meme layout is a meme, and some of these teams could actually have cleanly beat my defense without any losses. I'll leave it to you to figure out which ones. But we're running Catapult in this style with the intent of trying to snipe down column 3 Bolt Tower, which is the most devastating. But as we'll see, some people do have column 4 Bolt Towers. It's even more common than column 3 Bolt Towers for me as far as I remember from my replays. So it's basically L-Fest for us in that respect. But Bolt Tower is just ridiculously strong, carried me in a lot of matches this season. But for them, in this case, Bolt Tower damage does a bit too much. So Legendary Leaf can't proc his special to get the heck out of there. And they leave Brave Edelgard here to be panicked by the Panic Manor. So, yeah, and that's not going to be a very good end result. And of course, we get the rigged one-shot with Bonus Bramamond. Bonus Bramamond definitely helped out in quite a few matches, but it turns out that it actually wouldn't have mattered for some matchups. And if anything, it would have made the matchups worse in the enemies. So it would have been more in my favor if you didn't have bonus stats. But here, of course, Bramamond's going to attack Legendary Leaf because he has the most HP. So they can still win at this point, probably, because it's Guinevere versus Bramamond, but more debuffs. So unable to kill. And that allows Bramamond to coast to victory. Air's unable to kill, and now it's just GG for their offense. Honestly, this healing tower spot, after watching this week, not the greatest spot, but I mean, it's better than nothing. It honestly would probably be better where Sylvia is, but yeah, we're not gonna worry about it. It's a meme setup for a reason. It's supposed to be half okay, but also kind of bad at the same time. Some people did use some of the weaknesses of the layout, but not quite correctly. You can't just, if you don't have any way to deal with the specials, you can't just hit end turn with any unit. That's the thing that makes the defense okay, but that's about it, unfortunately, for my defense. So they decided to go do some things. Not entirely sure what they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to snipe down someone, but they're just kind of shuffling around, and then they decide to hit end turn under Panic Manor. So we all know how this is going to go. It shouldn't be much of a surprise that this is what happens when you do that kind of a bait. Milla bonus honestly was quite underwhelming. Basically never came into play. But yeah, she wasn't really able to tank anything more, and she never really got fast enough to avoid any doubles or anything. It wasn't very useful. The plus 10 HP was, like, theoretically it sounds nice, but she still straight up dies in 2 shots even with plus 10 HP and plus 4 to both stats because she's Nom and Dark Shrines. so she definitely takes a lot more damage than she should be. But one of the memes of this defense is putting Chrom in column 4, because the problem with that is so many people like to put Tactics Room on column 4 just because it's a popular column to put your Tactics Room, because a lot of setups like placing, say, a range cav unit on column 4, or just any ranged unit in general on column 4. A lot of layouts definitely put it there, so I do too. They decided to break the catapult, not entirely sure why, because that kind of opens the floodgates. If you're not going to snipe down the catapult turn 1, it's kind of like, eh. But they go in for this play, which is quite interesting. And then they just leave air there to die. Because, I mean, what is she going to do against Legendary Chrom with effective damage in Luna? Not very much. So that's just going to be absolute overkill. And Legendary Chrom gets a rigged one-shot on Brave Edelgard. But I'm going to be real. I don't think she was one-shotting on the counter, so she probably was going to get one round KO'd anyways. So the difference would have been, of course, Legendary Chrom having less HP, but it doesn't matter because Legendary Julia still one-shots. But Seliph with Divine Tearfing is too much of a problem, and Bramon's hiding over here with Hardy Bearing and Wings of Mercy. So that's a ripperonis. And then we have like the pinnacle of Legendary Elowood bonus. Like conceptually, him being bonus, it is win season, so it's favorable for scoring. But the problem with bonus doubler is that it doesn't do anything if you don't have any field buffs. And so when you're up against 3 units on the enemy team having lulls to the most relevant stats, you kind of have a problem there. Versa also not being at her max HP is also kind of a problem, but we're not going to worry about that. So they decided to make this play. Obviously, this wasn't going to end well. But even with the bolt tower damage here, young Marv, it might look like he has a decent attack stat here, but in reality against Chrom, he's at full HP, so he actually has a 52 base attack, and on top of that, there's a weapon triangle, so a 42 attack against 40 defense is a small problem. So they just end up surrendering here, and to be honest, it wasn't going to end well against Bramon either, because he has a decent attack stat. But of course, one of the biggest problems with this defense is the layout. Attack debuffs and stuff are literally everywhere, especially with Milla bonus. It's literally sabotage attack for days. So if you can engage the units while they're debuffed for attack and it actually counts, like especially for Bramond, it's super important. But here we have a Cecilia here with double triangle depth. Of course, this doesn't work in practice. If you're going to be running the TA Refine, you should just run something else in A. You could run HP plus 5, HP attack, whatever the heck you want, but double triangle adept does not do anything. It only works once, so they do, you know, what seems to be a reasonable play. And of course, again, the setup is intentionally made so people can do this if they want to, and there's literally no real way for Seliph to actually reach whoever's here, unless you don't isolate both dancers. Then something like that would happen. But unfortunately, again, lulz be lulz, and weapon triangle only carries you so far. Bramon's able to do quite a bit of damage there, and Legendary Chrom gets to change fate, so he has just a massive attack stat, and with Rengreether Ranguther isn't even active here, but just low attack defense with his 87 attack. It's definitely still quite the attack stat. I believe that's like 53 attack or something. It's a non-negligible attack stat with Luna, so that's just a huge problem for Cecilia. And also, they brought Ophelia here, but the problem is I have the meme Pulse Tie on Nils, and it's not like I'm even investing into HP anymore. I'm running Chill Attack in his Seal slot, so he has less HP than he really could, and that's just a rip. And again, someone here brings Ophelia, which again, conceptually not a terrible idea if you can pick up the kills. Of course, the problem is Pulse Tie exists, so if you don't go in quickly, you're gonna lose your AoE special, and then you really can't attack anyone. So you basically have to go into this turn if you want to use your AoE special. But they don't do that, and they get set up, and that becomes a small problem because they literally have no way to engage into anyone without probably dying, because everyone hits relatively hard or can tank decently. Like, honestly, the weakest link here is probably Seliph, but he still has a hefty attack stat. And they do go ahead and put Ophelia over there so they can get that going. But it's already turn 5 as well, so they're taking a lot of time to set up. And honestly, I think they just didn't even realize Pulse Tie was a thing. So yeah. Like, Ophelia here, they can take out Seliph. Like I said, the weakest link was most likely going to be Seliph. And AoE special is going to do a crud ton of damage, but it's just too late, and you have to commit, of course, because, well, what are you going to do? And the AoE special is very strong because none of my units really has a super high visible res stat. So what ends up happening is the AoE does a lot of damage, like 70 visible attack, for example, against even this 43 res Bramon here. Still takes out most of his health, so definitely strong. And this Bramon isn't even running LOL, he's running Wings of Mercy because I'm trying it out. But honestly, to see how well that works, I have to get back to Vault of Heaven during a late season, which I don't know when that's happening. I have no idea when that's happening. But I think it's about at this point where we got Deadeye and Times Pulse on Legendary Chrom, so we got that upgrade over Luna and Drive Speed. Because I'm gonna be real, Drive Speed really doesn't do anything here. But here we have this matchup. Panic Manor isn't high enough level, so we can't even panic Brave Ike, and he does have 46 speed, so he can't avoid the double from Legendary Chrom, but of course he also can't naturally double back. Of course, that's why he has quick riposte, but he's also quite debuffed, and because he's at full HP, his attack's pretty low enough to where Legendary Chrom, he actually almost does pick up the one-shots, but Brave Ike can't one-round KO, so he's able to, Legendary Chrom gets danced and picks up the kill. But here's like an example of where the healing tower being all the way on the left side isn't useful, because Legendary Chrom could really use heal, and it would definitely make him much more threatening that way. But this Seliph is almost holding his own, but the problem is he's just taking too many attacks, and he can't pick up the kills. Peony actually living by a sliver there, but at this point he's just taking a ton of damage, and he can't heal off all the damage he's going to take. So Seliph has advantage here, which allows us to do quite a bit of damage. And at this point, their Seliph at 4 HP is not going to be really doing much here. So it's actually going to be Nils who picks up the kill, but the order doesn't really matter at this point. because ripperonis. So that was another steamroll. I mean, some of these matches they actually did have a chance to win, but again, it's all about the execution. It doesn't matter how broken your units are if you don't use them right. I mean, there's some... Well, I imagine we'll get to some point where you can be completely broken and just do literally whatever you want and still win. But, you know, I'm getting to the point where the team is getting close to full plus 10 minus these two guys. I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. But I also noticed a lot of people running Bride, Fjorm, and Milla, which is kind of interesting because I feel like you should be doing that you should use Bride Fjorm during Astra season because there's literally no other way to get some isolation without tanking your score. But I mean, you can do whatever. But here it turns out it's actually not a good play to isolate Sylvia. But anyways, we have Marita here. You know, solid unit of Marita's sword. But her main problem is damage output, and no surprise here. Damage output is a serious problem. And Bride Fjorm can't even isolate Sylvia, just like ignoring that part. Like, even if she could isolate, there's already other issues with Bride Fjorm here. But Legendary Crown of Deadeye is going to completely screw over the speed-based damage reduction, and he has a decent attack stat, so lots of damage going around. But the healing tower being on the far left side comes in handy in this case, where they do use the bolt trap, which again, the bolt trap is there purely for bad. It should not be there, it's just there because why the heck not? But at this point, it's Sylvia up against Milla, obviously not going to do any damage, but Baramon can fling himself in with Wings of Mercy, and Legendary Crown is forever looming in the back. At this point, they just do not have the kill power to deal with both Baramon and Legendary Crown, so it's going to be a Ripperonis. And yeah, that's it, because Baramon's gonna barely be able to one-round KO there, and Crom picks up the kill, and that's a rip. So yeah, that's not great. And here again, this is the classic problem of bonus doubler revisited. Here we have a plus 10 dual Alphons all maxed out, and ally supported with Legendary Azura, which is kind of interesting, but I mean, whatever works. So they go ahead and use their duo skill, and they're just getting a bit set up here. They really don't set up too much, and realistically, they could have played this much better. I'm pretty sure I did find a way that they could have won, but that didn't happen, and it all stems from this mistake. They just hit end turn like this, and this is where Sun Panic stonks are quite useful. And the problem with this isn't really necessarily the loss of attack, defense, or res. I mean, the defense loss is kind of important for Open the Future, but the real problem is the speed loss, because Imbued Coma, of course, also gives speed, and with bonus doubler, as long as the speed buff's actually active, you get dual Alphons to a pretty decent speed. Not blazing fast, but he can like naturally double Sella, for example, with that kind of speed. But now he's so slow that even the Bramons can double him, and that becomes a small problem. But it turns out I did my daily damage calcs, and it kind of turns out that it doesn't even matter if they didn't have Legendary Azura next to dual Alphons. If they had her one space away, He still would have died in that position just because he's up against low attack res and low attack defense, which is a bit of a problem. Even though Dual Alphonse can get a heal off of Seliph, the problem is Open the Future only heals 25% of the damage you deal. So even if you one-shot Seliph through Divine Tearfing, which I think he's close to or something if bonus doubler was active and everything with the attack field buff, then still would not be healing too much, about 16 HP, which given what my units are chucking out with Luna or Legendary Chrom Deadeye, yeah, that's probably not enough damage. And I believe Legendary Chrom even can one-shot Dual Alphonse just because of low attack defense and Deadeye, so yeah, not a great matchup there. But the thing is, if we like go back into the replay real quick, because I forgot to mention, yeah, Bolt Tower here, I know it's only 15 damage, but I think they probably could have used it to win. Just hitting end turn there, not the greatest idea. But last but not least, we have this team. Another classic mishmash team of decent units that are just mashed together to do things. But a lot of people in not Volta Heaven, it seems like they're just not equipped for a lot of mismatches. There's definitely less pulse smokes. I don't think I saw any this season on defense. So if you can't counter the specials, the main thing you have to do is minimize your losses, yeah. And that's kind of a problem when there's 3 hard-hitting specials. And Bramond, not able to survive here, but again, the problem just becomes the follow-up, because it's a very linear defense. They're going to move in diagonal lines and straight lines. It's not too difficult to tell where they're going to go. Or even if it's like there's multiple choices, you can kind of assume what's going to happen. But at this point, the problem is Sudden Panic exists and To Change Fate exists. So Legendary Chrom's going to absolutely overkill Brave Edelgard, which again, I think she wasn't living anyways if she lived the shot. So that's a rip. And yeah, they don't have anything for Legendary Chrom at this point, and Seliph still exists. It's just too much to handle. So with that, you know, it makes our defense look good, but in practice, it's actually kind of bad. There's a lot of memes running around. I highly doubt you can spot them all, but it should be pretty obvious this is the real heavy trap, just because of the healing tower. But realistically, this is also a decent choice for a location because of Bramon being a central weak point in this defense, especially when he has attack defense solo in this position. Literally not doing anything in that spot. But it's an okay layout, but again, that's kind of what I try to go for. An okay layout that has a bunch of holes in it. So if you're prepared, you can win, but if you're not, well, I don't know what you're supposed to do. But with that, we gotta go to results now. We're dropping out of interval 20 like usual in Resonant Battles and Arena. So originally I thought, okay, I can just sack a few bonus kills in Arena so I can guarantee I drop. And it was quite the nail biter actually, because we have a whopping only 3,802. This is incredibly low for tier 21, but you can see it's actually barely dropping, so I almost accidentally stayed in trying to drop out. It's probably because it's water season and I forgot that my Anna is water blessed, so I was getting some blessings to score, which made my random fishing generally have higher scores, and so that was kind of a problem. But technically speaking, I can choose to stay. I'm still on the fence whether I want to because I have the scoring for it. The problem is next week it's fire and wind, So what I would probably have to end up doing is using Gunthra as my bonus because she is +2. And then I'd probably have to use Wind Blessings, which are not my most plentiful blessing in case I need more score. But even then it's not guaranteed because I believe my score range with Wind Blessing would be like 740 to 754 or something, which would let me feasibly get about 3,820, which is like the safe point for this league. So I'm too on the fence about it to do it. So I think we're just going to drop at the end of the day. We're going to lose 2 trait fruits, 10 divine codes, 1 orb, 1 crown, and 500 feathers, and I think I'll take that take that loss. I'm not particularly concerned about it. And in Arena Assault, we got quite the monster score for a one and done week. Just literally one run. It was pretty intense. I got 3 762 matches. 2 of them were incredibly challenging. One of them was kind of a gimme match because they were doing the score bot strat where you just run, for example, like Silver Bow on Legendary Crom and Darting Blow for dance skills in the B slot. So, but it was a pretty challenging run, but doing your daily damage calcs always pays off when you do it right. So, we got a pretty solid score. Of course, not top 50. I don't think we're ever gonna bother fishing for top 50 because the cutoffs they're pretty ridiculous at this point where it's literally just having maxed out score range or close to it. Because the problem is if your if your floor is too low, then you're susceptible to running into a lot of teams that score at those ranges just because it's common because of blessings or whatnot. So that's a problem, but Mjolnir Strike, on a side note. So I thought at first that the scoring was going to change because of the extra attack +10 slot here and this all stats +3 slot, but it turns out that I believe this special slot doesn't actually contribute to score, and you have to use your summoner. So putting 2 and 2 together, the score doesn't actually change at all. Like even when I'm running, this isn't the correct actual score because it's Dark Major, but you can see that the actual scores aren't changing compared to how it used to be because it turns out I think the slot that the summoner is in is a void slot for score, so it doesn't count at all. I guess you'd call it null, I don't know. A null slot for score. So I think it's still only the 4 pairs of units here that actually count to your score. The special slot and the summoner slot don't get counted. So I guess that means I can probably try and continue staying in tier 21 Mjolnir Strike. But that's just an aside. We'll be back when the results drop in. Alright, it's been a while since I reset, so yep, top 20k pog. But yeah, going back up to Vault and not expecting much here. It is a Fjorm bonus. I mean, yeah, it's Fjorm bonus, but unfortunately it's not the right set of shenanigans. But it is Legendary Corn bonus, so at least maybe she can frontline like 1% better, but I'm not going to be too worried about it. I'm gonna just try using her on offense to try and hit end turn on a lot of teams, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna fail pretty miserably. But Regan is bonus as well, so maybe that'll help out. I'm not sure what strategy I want to use yet because it is Windfire, so I basically have an open slot for a unit to use because Regan's bonus. Maybe Kaden, but then things get really strange. Yeah, I don't know yet. Probably have to keep Naga though because if Saurus is a thing. I don't know. We'll think about that a bit more. And Resonant Battles. As expected, another water blessing to add to our collection. We have so many from spamming our water legendaries on banners, but just solid results overall. Exactly top 1/8 of 1k. That's cool, I guess. But yeah, we have quite a few water blessings, and I've used quite a few more water blessings than other blessings too, so yeah, we have plenty to spare, and of course we also have plenty of light blessings. But yeah, I guess we don't have any trait fruits, Kappa. Can't find them. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this episode. Thanks for watching. As always, this is Ether Dragon, and hope to see you all next time. Bye.